Well, it was the best, the very best. It's our favorite holiday. So I'm a college freshman. I'm in a music major, and there's a returning graduate student just coming back for a few credits who was also a music major, and he needed an accompanist, and he was singing The Love of God, right? I was his accompanist. It was Bill Carmichael, this great guy with a great sense of humor and twinkling blue eyes, and we just hit it off, and we kept meeting afterwards for tea in a little cafeteria, and then our first date, he asked me out, was on Valentine's Day. And we were college students, Southern California, and we borrowed a friend's convertible because neither of us had a car, and we drove to Hollywood. Hollywood and Vine, and we just parked the car and walked up and down and fell in love. I mean, hard. And then we went out afterwards for strawberry shortcake. And it's been a journey ever since. That's it. So here's my mug to remind me that I need to plan something very special for my sweetheart of 52 years. And it's still fun. So there you have it.
For the last 2 years of my dad's life, he lived in an assisted living facility. And one day I walked into his room and I saw a stack of cards, like construction paper cards, sitting on his desk. And I said, "What are these?" And he said, "Those are from my pen pals." And I said, "Pen pals?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "It's all Barbara's fault." Barbara was the activities director there at the facility, and she was always trying to get my dad involved in things. And she had gotten a call from some teachers at the local elementary school, and they wanted to get their kids hooked up with some of the residents there and be pen pals with them. And so one of the first grade classes had chosen him because he had the same last name as their teacher. And so I thought, but I knew that he had peripheral neuropathy in his hands really bad. He could hardly even sign his own name. And I said, "How are you going to write letters to these kids?" And he said, "Oh, I'm going to dictate to Barbara and she's going to do it." And I thought, oh, poor Barbara. And so anyway, Christmas came and there was a stack of red and green cards and all sweet little notes. And they were all telling him what they were going to get for Christmas and all about their elves. And he said, "What is this fascination with elves?" And so I had to explain to him about Elf on the Shelf. And so then Valentine's Day came around, and they invited, each class invited their pen pal to their Valentine's Day party. And Dad didn't really want to go. He was old and cranky and he didn't feel good. And he said, "I'm 88 years old. What have I got in common with these 6-year-olds? And so anyway, he went on and gave in, and he went. So the next day I came by and I said, "Well, how did it go?" And he said, "It was wonderful." And I could just look at him and tell he was like a changed man. And he said, "It meant so much to me." He said, I took some of my carving. He was a whittler, and he said, "I took some of my carvings just to show him." And he said, and he said, and then they each came up and gave me their Valentine and gave me a hug. And he said, "I felt like a hero." He said, "I felt so full of love." And I said, "Well, that's great." And he said, some of the people that had pen pals there, he said, some of the residents here, he said, they didn't go to their parties. And he said, their kids cried. Those classes cried. He said, "I sure am glad I didn't poop out on my kids." And I said, "Well, I am too." Then later I went and I saw Barbara and talked to her, and she said, "Did your dad tell you about his experience there?" And I said, "Yeah, he did." And she said, "We've all been talking about it." She said, "We just were not prepared for the effect it had on him." She said, "It really, really touched his heart." And little did we know that a month later he would be gone. And then his class cried. But I wrote this story up for Chicken Soup for the Soul for one of their books. It was Inspiration for Teachers. It was called Generation to Generation. And so the next year I got to go and meet the class. Their teacher had actually moved up with that same class to second grade. And so I presented her with one of the books, and I got to talk with the kids. I took some more of his carvings to show them, talk to them about how he was in World War II and all that. And I just told them how much their cards meant to him, and how much it meant to him to be able to come to the Valentine's Day party. So that's really one of the biggest Valentine's Day memories that I have.